Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. Uh, we want to go ahead and start with our first question on our series of the 20 most common asked questions by non-Muslims. And again, this has been compiled by Dr. Zakir Naik, the president and head of the Islamic Research Foundation, someone who has been around the world talking about Islam and answering people's questions. And so we're going to go ahead and start with the first couple of questions here having to do with polygamy. Now, uh, first off, polygamy means a system of marriage whereby one person has more than one spouse. Polygamy can be of two types. One is polygyny, where a man marries more than one woman, and one is polyandry, where a woman marries more than one man. Now, in Islam, limited polygyny is permitted, whereas polyandry is prohibited in Islam. Now, coming to the original question, why is a man allowed to have more than one wife in Islam? Now, the Quran is the only religious book on the face of the earth that contains the words, marry only one. There is no other religious book that instructs men to have only one wife. In other religious scriptures, whether it be the Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Gita, the Talmud, or even the Bible, does one find a restriction of the number of wives, that one can have. According to these scriptures, one can marry as many as one wishes. It was only later that the Hindu priests and the Christian church restricted the number of wives to one. Many Hindu religious personalities, according to their scriptures, had multiple wives. King Dashrath, the father of Rama, had more than one wife, and Krishna had several wives. In earlier times, Christian men were permitted to have as many wives as they wish, since the Bible puts no restriction on the number of wives. It was only a few centuries ago that the Christian church restricted the number of wives to one. Now, polygyny is permitted in Judaism according to Talmudic law. Abraham had 3 wives. Solomon had hundreds of wives. The practice of polygyny continued till Rabbi Gershom ben Yehuda, 950 to 1030 Common Era, issued an edict against it. The Jewish Sephardic communities living in Muslim countries continued this practice until as late as the 1950s, until an act of Chief Rabbinate of Israel extended the ban on marrying more than one wife. Now, the report of the Committee of the Status of Women in Islam, published in 1975, mentions on page numbers 66 and 67 that the percentage of polygamous marriages between the years 1951 and 1961 was 5.06% among the Hindus and only 4.31% among Muslims. According to Indian law, only Muslim men are permitted to have more than one wife. It is illegal for any non-Muslim in India to have more than one wife. Now, despite it being illegal, Hindus have more multiple wives as compared to Muslims. Earlier, there was no restriction even on Hindu men with respect to the number of wives allowed. It was only in 1954, when the Hindu Marriage Act was passed, that it became illegal for a Hindu to have more than one wife. At present, it is the Indian law that restricts a Hindu man from having more than one wife, and not the actual Hindu scriptures. Now, let us analyze why Islam allows a man to have more than one wife. As I mentioned earlier, the Quran is the only religious book on the face of the earth that says marry only one. The content of this phrase is the following, the context of this phrase is the following verse. Marry women of your choice, 2, 3, or 4, but if ye fear that ye shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only one. Quran chapter 4, verse 3. Now, before the Quran was revealed, there was no upper limit for polygyny, and many men had scores of wives, some even hundreds. Islam put an upper limit of wives to 4, and Islam gives a man permission to marry 2, 3, or 4 women only on the condition that he deals justly with them. Now, in the same chapter, it clearly states, you are never able to be fair and just between women. Chapter 4, verse 129. Therefore, we see polygyny is not a rule, but an exception. And many people are under the misconception that it is compulsory for a Muslim man to have more than one wife. Now, broadly, Islam has 5 categories of what are considered the do's and don'ts, what is allowed and what is prohibited. They are as follows. The first being fard. Fard are things that are compulsory or obligatory, such as the daily prayers are obligatory. Mustahab, which is recommended or encouraged, which would be things that are considered sunnah, such as the sunnah prayers or the additional prayers aside from the 5 obligatory or 5 fard prayers. Third is mubah, which is permissible or allowed. It is neither encouraged nor is it discouraged. It is merely allowed. Makruh, which is not recommended or discouraged, something that is not prohibited, but it is not looked upon in good favor. It is typically something that is looked down upon, but it is allowed. And then we have haram, which is prohibited or forbidden. Polygyny falls in the middle category of things that are permissible. It cannot be said that a Muslim who has 2, 3, or 4 wives is a better Muslim as compared to a Muslim who has only 1 wife. Now, let's look at the next one. The average lifespan of females is more than that of males. By nature, males and females are born in approximately the same ratio. But a female child has more immunity than a male child. A female child can fight the germs and diseases better than a male child can. For this reason, during the pediatric age itself, there are more deaths among males as compared to females. Now, during wars, there are more men killed as compared to women. More men die due to accidents and diseases than women, and the average lifespan of females is more than that of males. And at any given time, one finds more widows in the world than widowers. Now, if we look at India, India is one of the few countries, along with the other neighboring countries, in which the female population is less than the male population. The reason lies in the high rate of female infanticide in India and the fact that more than 1 million female fetuses are aborted every year in that country after they are identified as females. If this evil practice is stopped, then India also will have more females as compared to males. If we look at this on the scale of the world population, in the United States of America, women outnumber men by 7.8 million. New York alone has 1 million more females as compared to males, and the male population of New York, 1/3 of that population are gay. The USA as a whole has more than 25 million gays, and this means that these people do not wish to marry women. Great Britain has 4 million more females as compared to males. Germany has 5 million more females as compared to males. And Russia has 9 million more females as compared to males. And God alone knows how many more females are in existence in the world compared to males. Now, even if every man got married to one woman, there would still be more than 30 million females in the United States who would not be able to get married, considering that America has 25 million gays. There would be more than 4 million females in Great Britain, 5 million females in Germany, and 9 million females in Russia alone who would not be able to find a husband. Suppose your sister happens to be one of the unmarried women living in the United States. Or suppose, well, let's look at this. So suppose your sister is one of the unmarried women living in the U.S. The only two options remaining for her are that she either marries a man who already has a wife or becomes what is considered public property. There is no other option. All those who are modest will opt for the first. In Western society, it is actually commonplace for a man to have mistresses or multiple extramarital affairs, in which case the woman leads a disgraceful, unprotected life. The same society, however, cannot accept a man having more than one wife, in which the woman would retain their honorable, dignified position in society and lead a protected life. Thus, the only two options before a woman who cannot find a husband are to marry a married man or to become public property. Islam prefers giving women the honorable position by permitting the first option and disallowing the second. There are several other reasons why Islam has permitted limited polygyny, but it is mainly to protect the modesty of women. Now, let's look at this. If a man is allowed to have more than one wife, then why does Islam prohibit a woman from having more than one husband? A lot of people, including some Muslims, question the logic of this. Let me first state emphatically that the foundation of Islam, okay, the foundation of any Islamic society is based on equality and justice. Allah has created men and women as equal, but with different capabilities and different responsibilities. Men and women are different, physiologically, psychologically. Their roles and responsibilities are different, and men and women are equal in Islam, but not identical. Now, chapter 4, verses 22 through 24 gives the list of women who you cannot marry, and it further mentions in chapter 4, verse 24, also prohibited are women already married. The following points enumerate the reasons why polyandry is prohibited in Islam. If a man has more than one wife, the parents of the children born of such marriages can easily be identified. The father as well as the mother can be identified. In the case of a woman marrying more than one husband, only the mother of the child born of such marriages will be identified and not the father. Islam gives tremendous importance to the identification of parents, mother and father. Psychologists tell us that children who do not know their parents, especially their father, undergo severe mental trauma and disturbances. Often they have an unhappy childhood. It is for this reason that the children of prostitutes do not have healthy childhood. If a child born of such wedlock is admitted in school, when the mother is asked the name of the father, she would have to give 2 or more names. I am aware that recent advances in science have made it possible to identify both parents through genetics and other means, but this point, which was applicable for the past, may not be for the present. Number 2, man is more polygamous by nature as compared to women. Biologically, it is easier for a man to perform his duties as a husband despite having several wives. A woman in a similar position having several husbands will not find it possible to perform her duties as a wife. A woman undergoes several psychological and behavioral changes due to different phases of the menstrual cycle. And lastly, a woman who has more than one husband will have several sexual partners at the same time and has a high chance